And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. We've gone through, I think, every one of the Paw Patrol. I think I got through all of them. Maybe I'm missing one. But we're on to Liberty, the little wiener dog member of the team. And so let's just get into it. And look, when you have a Pokemon called Dachsbun, which is a Dachshund sweet bun roll pastry dog Pokemon, it has to be the main Pokemon on the team. Like, it has to be her main Pokemon, Dachsbun. By the way, obviously, we look at these characters if they were humanoid and, Pokemon trainers, not a dog using a dog as a Pokemon. But yeah, that's a given. But after that, though, I do have to now look more into her character, look more into what she brings to the table. So one of the things she carries in her backpack is little grabby arms that she uses to just grab things. So I thought a Pokemon with extra long arms that could be useful that way. I went with Ambipom. Ambipom, I think, really does fit that kind of, okay, I have these extra hands motif to grab things with. And they're on his backside, so that works out too. So there you go. Her main mode of transportation is a motorcycle. So I wasn't going to give her a Cyclizar. I wasn't about to give her Koraidon or Miraidon, but Cyclizar I think fits well for that. It would make sense. She's a young pup, young kid. There you go. Then we got a little tricky. Now, when the Mighty Pup Super movie came out, or was it the Super Paw Patrol Mighty movie or whatever it was, when they got superpowers, she gained the ability to be elastic. But one of the things that seems to either be part of her suit or an excess power of that is the ability to inflate her suit or herself like a balloon. And so I had to go with a Pokemon that maybe isn't a balloon like Drifloon or Drifblim, but a Pokemon that can inflate itself like that. And obviously we have one clear answer there, Jigglypuff. I could have gone Wigglytuff, but I think it is important that not all these Pokemon are involved on this team because she doesn't strike me as someone who's fully mature yet. She's very young, very opinionated, speaks her mind often. And that's not always a good thing. That's sometimes you need to learn when not to talk as opposed to when to talk. And to be fair, all the characters in Paw Patrol are young puppies. So they're still learning, and it would make sense that not every one of their Mon are fully evolved yet. Then the one filler Mon I have on this team is Growlithe. Just the standard Growlithe. They're very helpful Pokemon. They're very loyal, very energetic, and that does fit with her personality. Now back to the elasticity part. That was her power that she got in the Mighty movie when they got superpowers. But I'm looking, there really isn't a stretchy Pokemon. There isn't a Pokemon that's truly like Mr. Fantastic or elongating or anything like that. Pokemon that can stretch its body in that sense. But Pokemon do have abilities like Vine Whip, Lickitung's tongue can do this. And a weird outlier one, Breloom can stretch its arms really long. Hitmonlee can also stretch its legs. I did not feel Hitmonlee was a good fit, though. I think Breloom works a bit better here. Again, it can stretch its arms really long because those are its arms, but its arms do stretch to deliver fierce punches. So is this a complete team? Complete might be a loose term. Is it a full six-man team? Sure. Now, the team does suffer from a couple really big weaknesses. One that's going to kill it in its playthrough value, I guess we'll call it, is 3 times weak to poison given the 2 fairy types plus the grass type. It's 2 times weak to steel due to the 2 fairy types. 2 times weak to fighting due to the 2 normal types on the team. 2 times weak to fairy given the dragon and the fighting type on the team. And 2 times weak to ice given the grass type and the dragon type on the team. Conversely, though, it's times 2 strong against fighting with the 2 fairy types on the team. 3 times strong against dark with the 2 fairies and the fighting type. 3 times strong against big words. 3 times strong against dragon with the 2 fairies and the dragon type. 2 times strong against ice with the fire and the fighting type, and then 2 times strong against steel with the fire and the fighting type. So I think it's overall balanced out. In fact, I think there is one more strength than weakness on this for this team. However, in a playthrough of any of the games, this team, quite frankly, almost will never make it to the Elite Four. Spoilers now, but you cannot become champion in any region with this team. Breaking it down, you will not struggle in the early game with Kanto, but once you get to Erica, it's a little tricky because you will not have a fully evolved Ambipom yet. It evolves when you learn double hit at around 32, so you still have an Aipom. Add on the fact that Jigglypuff is not going to evolve, and you're stuck more or less with a mildly okay Dragon-type Pokemon that does have the Shed Tail ability, which can cure it of status conditions, or Shed Tail attack, whatever it was. And Dachsbun, which is weak to poison, which half her team, despite being grass, is still poison. So there's a good chance you just don't make it past Erica. But the Dragon-type and Aipom can still do some work, so I think it's not impossible, but you are stopped at Koga. Even though you'll have Ambipom now at this point, 2 of your Mon right out the gate are just completely KO'd by its poison types. And then all you're left with is a mildly okay Dragon, but that Muck and Koffing are so bulky, you're not going to really be able to get through them. So you're stopped at Koga and Kanto. When it comes to Johto, you actually are going to be okay for a little bit. You struggle a little bit with any bug types because bug is actually resistant to fairy. But because you have Aipom there, you should be fine. Miltank is actually not that big a deal because you do have a sturdy enough Dragon on the team. Even the Ghost type gym with Morty is not that big a problem. You'll have Dachsbun at that point. You're still immune to Ghost types, and you have Fairy moves. The fact that, yes, Haunter, though, being poison is a little problematic, but only in the sense that it's going to resist the Fairy, not that it has poison moves. Chuck isn't that big of an issue, but the fact is, Poliwrath does have non-fighting moves. So your immunity that you have to, or resistance that you have to fighting is kind of negated. And any fighting type move is just going to take down the other two. So you might be done at Chuck. But if you did get past Chuck, you stop at Price. Because he has Dugong, he has Piloswine, and I think he has one other Mon that I'm forgetting at the moment. But Piloswine, which you just don't have any good answers to. Add on the fact that you might have a ×2 strength against Ice, but if you cannot actually hit any of his team properly, it's not going to matter. And you still got to get past Dugong as well. So, yeah, you're not really in a good way against Price. And even if you did manage to get past Price, do you actually think you can get past Claire with, yes, 2 Fairy types, but a Jigglypuff and a Dachshund, where she has a Kingdra, 2 Dragonair, and a Gyarados? I'm sorry. No. So, yeah, you make it farther in Johto, I think, than you do Hoenn, but still no. In Kanto. With Hoenn, you're already going to struggle with Brawly. Like, Fido can resist for a while, but Aipom's going down quick, and, like, maybe you could hold out long enough to bring down Makuhita. Maybe. But if you get past Brawly, you actually won't struggle that hard against Watson, surprisingly. You should actually be okay. Flannery, you got a built-in win con with Dachsbun because it has Baked, which makes it immune to fire-type moves. And so most of what her team's going to do to you is just not going to matter. But Norman is the problem. You don't have Breloom at this point. It's the 5th gym, not the 6th. And so you do not have fighting type moves to deal with his Vigoroth or his Slakings. I don't think it's necessarily impossible, but it's so unlikely that I just say you're going to stop there. And then you still got to deal with a flying type gym of Winona? I believe it's Winona. She's got Skarmory, Pelipper, Altaria. Yeah, her team is actually really stacked. You're not going to be champion of Hoenn. You're also not going to be the champion at Sinnoh, although you actually should be able to. You might struggle on some gyms, definitely, but you won't actually. What's the best way to put it? It's feasible you can actually beat every gym in the region when you face them. Now, mind you, going up against Maylene might be suicidal a little bit. In fact, I'll actually say this. Maylene, if you're going up against her 3rd, you're probably screwed. Because 2 of your Mon are straight out weak to fighting. The Dragon doesn't resist fighting, so maybe you'll survive a hit. But, yeah, you're going to be in trouble against Maylene. If she's the 4th gym leader or 5th, you might be able to get a win. Like if you hold on to Growlithe long enough to get a fire move off on the Lucario, maybe you'll win. It's not a good chance, but you could still do it. Byron, surprisingly, you won't struggle that much. You have both Growlithe and Breloom. They should be able to pull their weight. Then you have Candace. Again, surprisingly, those two should be able to pull their weight. Even Wagner is not that difficult to deal with. You're not like weak to electricity on this team. But once you get into the Elite Four, it's one of the only times you actually do make it to the Elite Four. Aaron alone, you're just going to stop at. Yeah, you have Growlithe, but he has Drapion. And quite frankly, Growlithe is not going to be one-shotting most of those Mon. So once Growlithe goes down, you have no good answer on the team and Bug resists Fairy. So, yeah, you're probably stopped at Aaron. Even if you could get past him, you're not getting past Bertha. Breloom can only do so much on its own. So, and let's hypothetically say you did get through all 4 of them, which I don't think you would, obviously. You're not beating Cynthia right out just from the get. Just from the get, you're not beating Cynthia. Yeah, Dachsbun might be a decent little counter to Spiritomb initially. All she's got to do is swap it in for something else, or just wait for it to go down to as much damage as possible, and then go to town with one of her other Mon. Like that. Like, Milotic alone could sweep this entire team sans Breloom, and even then, Breloom might not guarantee that win, because I think it has Ice Beam on that thing. So, yeah, no, you're not being Champion Sinnoh. Unova, you stop at Roxy in Black and White too. That's just because at that point you just have a Fido and a Aipom. You're not getting past your Poison team. In Black and White 1, you will definitely do a little better. Like, you shouldn't really have a problem with any of the original 3, Chillin, Cillin, or is it not Chill? Chili, Cillin, Cress, and Cillian? Lenore might be problematic, but Crunch very obviously is strong against Dark, so the crunch that thing will bring will not hurt Fido that much. Against Berg, though, luckily at that point you'll have Cyclizar, so you should be okay there. Then Elise, now that being said, you'll have a fully evolved Dachsbun at that point. Dachsbun. That is really difficult to say. I don't know if you could. That Aerial Ace is on Almoga is horrifying. But maybe. But then you're just running into a block with Clay, which you don't have a good answer for because you don't have Breloom yet. If you had Breloom, I'd say you could do it. But I don't think you can. Even then, you got to still deal with Skyla. And then you got to deal with Bryson, which is this team's half and half good against. Then you got to deal with Drayden, which this team's all right against Dragon, admittedly, but they have other moves besides Dragon moves, and you only got one fully evolved Fairy to begin with. And then you got to deal with the Elite Four. And only half this team is really fully evolved. One doesn't evolve at all. If you had a Wigglytuff and an Arcanine on the team, this actually would be a very different conversation. But as it stands, you don't. So, yeah, even if you did hypothetically get to the champions, that is Selgor alone is going to sweep nearly all this team on its own. It outspeeds everything. It's got a type advantage against Breloom. It resists your 2 fairy types. And even if Growlithe does hit it with a move, it's not going to put it down. It's just doesn't have the stats for it. And then Iris starts with a Hydreigon. Yeah, it's ×4 weak to Fairy, but it's got pseudo stats and non-Fairy moves. So, yeah. Anyway, I digress. So, right out the gate in Kalos, you're going to struggle with Viola because, again, Bug resists Fairy. There's actually a good chance you can't get past Viola. If you do, I actually think you stop at Karina because I think you can get past. It's not going to be easy. You can get past Grant because luckily you're immune to Dragon moves, and resistant to Dark moves. So not like Tyrant's not a problem, and Aurora's you'll be able to handle, I think. But really enough, Karina's the problem because yeah, you have Dachsbun, but you also have 2 normal types that are straight out weak to fighting, and that Hawlucha is going to outspeed everything on this team. And while Fairy is resistant to fighting, it still takes damage from fighting. So ultimately, yeah, I don't think you're in a good way against Karina. If hypothetically you were able to manage to resist her long enough to get past her, You'd be able to handle Ramos no problem, Clement no problem. You'd probably be able to handle Valerie no problem. I would like to say you would, but 2 of your strongest mon are actually weak to Fairy. So I'd call that a wash. What was it, Luminia, the Psychic type gym leader? You'd be all right against. Wolfrin might be where you run into another big roadblock, because yes, you have 2 fighting and a fire, but again, under-evolved. Breloom can only do so much on its own, and then even if you did manage the Elite Four, this team is hit and miss against Steel types. It's all right against dragons, but they have other moves besides dragons, including the fact she has a Draugi on her team, which is poison. So your fairy types are actually in big trouble there. Water is just kind of relevant to this team. And fire, you actually might be the one you can handle because of Dash Bun's ability. But then you got to deal with Diantha, and Diantha's Hawlucha alone would pose the same problem Karina poses, except even worse because it has Swords Dance and X-Scissor on it. So no, I don't think you beat Diantha. I don't think you beat Callus. I don't think you can be the champion there. Galar, you might just stop at Nessa. She has 3 mon on her team against your 2 under-evolved mon. I just don't think that's happening. And one of them is a fully evolved Dreadnought. I just don't think that's happening. Even if you did somehow manage to get through all the gym leaders, let's just start off with Leon's first one, the Aegislash. You don't have a good answer for it outside of Growlithe. And then you got to swap in and take a hit from that thing. And then hopefully you bring it down on the hit. And then Dragapult comes out and sweeps the entire goddamn team. Because it has Dragon Breath, Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, and Thunderbolt. Nothing on this team would survive Dragapult. Period. End of story. And I continue to this day preach that it should have been his ace, not Charizard. Give it an aircraft carrier style, Gigantamax form, you're good. Anyway, so yeah, not a really well-balanced team. Even if I had evolved the Wigglytuff and the Arcanine, I honestly think you'd still run into the same problem with Koga. Yeah, Arcanine can maybe put some more work in, so it's not impossible. But then you got to deal with Sabrina, and you just don't have a good answer for Psychic types on this team. That'd be very touch and go. Blaine would actually be pretty easy with Fido on the team. You don't have a good answer to Giovanni because he only has actually 2 mon. Actually, 1 mon that's really weak to fighting type moves. And you don't have really good answers beyond that. Like, no real strength against ground on this team apart from Breloom. So if Breloom goes down, you're in trouble because you've actually got a couple mon on this team that are in fact weak to ground. Or at least 1 clear mon that's weak to ground. So yeah, it still wouldn't matter there. It wouldn't matter in Johto too much. Maybe because you have a fully evolved Wigglytuff, you could get past Claire. Would you get past Will? Unlikely. Again, no good answers to Psychic type moves on this team. Or Psychic types in general. Koga, you'd still struggle hard with. Like, again, 2 of your mon are just going down quick. Bruno, you'd probably be fine against. Karen, you'd have what? You'd actually be fine against Karen. Lance would be tricky, but I think Lance still actually beats you. So no. And then even if you could get to the Elite Four, could you even get past, say, Winona and Hoenn? I don't think so. I mean, yes, maybe, but then you got to deal with Liza and Tate, which are rock and psychic types. So I don't even think you're winning that matchup. It's just not good. And then you get to Paldea, and I honestly think you stopped out the gate because of Katie. Because Katie is a bug type leader or gym leader with 3 different bug types. One's a Teddiursa that turns into a bug type, and bug resists fairies. So it's an uphill battle that you're not going to win right out the gate. So yeah, it's not good. Not a good spot to be in. But I don't know. What do you think? Maybe I'm downplaying this team, or maybe this team is as right as it's supposed to be. But that's the team I thought of for Liberty from Paw Patrol. Let me know what you think. Do you like this team, or would you do something different? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Later.